Hello everybody, Mannix here. Got another little knife review for you right here, right now. But first, as always, feel free to subscribe to that little bell notification if you do not want to miss weekly knife and gun videos. This is going to be on yet another Ozark trail, a Walmart special, the 6293. Relatively newer one, filming this mid to mid-late 2024 right now. These guys go for just a little bit under $8. I'll just say right off the bat, totally worth the money. But I do miss the days back when these Ozark trails were under $4. They were like $3.97 or $3.96, something like that. Damn, those were the days right there. But even for double the price, it's still worth it. It's still a sub $10 knife. That's just the reality of the economical situation we're in the United States right now. I'm not going to get into that. I'm pretty sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. But still not a bad knife for less than $10. Our overall length is just about 7.5 inches. Blade length, from what I'm measuring here, it's just a hair over 3 inches, it looks like. And then our handle looks like it's just under 4.5. Very lightweight, despite those steel liners. I think it looks so cool. I like the way this knife looks until I see that ugly slapped-on pocket clip with no alignment whatsoever, but 2.34. It's not even 2.5 ounces. It's very, very light. 2.34 ounces. Huh. I'm surprised. Possibly 3CR13 steel. Nobody's really 100% sure what these Ozark trails are made of, but most likely it's that. A lot of people have tested these things, and with my research anyway, supposedly they're supposed to perform like a 3CR13, something like that. Very, very soft, but it gets hella sharp very quickly. It's just not going to retain its edge very long, but you get what you pay for. You want to throw something nicer on there, even like 8CR13 MOV, now you got maybe, I don't know, a $16 knife, and you swap out the polypropylene with FRN, now you got maybe, I don't know, we're going to get closer to like a $20-something knife. You want to, even something as stupid as just tapping out extra holes to make it ambidextrous, that's going to increase costs that way. So it is what it is, sub $8 knife or so, take it or leave it. Really like the way it looks. It's got the whole military green and tanto thing going on, and it screams combat knife to me. It's kind of what it looks like it's going for. Is it a good combat knife? It's almost there. It could work in a pinch, but it's more on the EDC side of things, but it could probably work in that aspect just fine. It's just not optimized for it, but we're going to get into that. Very, very simple, just like all the other Ozark trails. There's nothing particularly special going on about this one. Nothing really making it stand out in comparison to the other Ozark trails. I just really like the way this one looks. I really, really like the cosmetics on this guy. I like tanto blades. I'm a sucker for those things. I love this green right here. I would say it's probably not quite an OD green. It's not olive drab. It's more on the blue spectrum of green. So it's more like a sage green, maybe? Forest green? I don't know what else you would call that, but it's not quite the typical OD green that you'd normally be used to on folders trying to look tactical, military, law enforcement, SWAT, ninja commando, stuff like that. It's very, very straight and angular, which I'm also a sucker for that when there's mimicry going on, or repetition, I should say, in the aesthetic design. You don't have like a curvy organic blade, but then a super straight handle or vice versa. We got some mimicry going on right here. I like little, striations in the handle scales right here, which by the way are polypropylene. All the Ozark Trail folders, as far as I know, have polypropylene handle scales, which is basically a very, very hard, rigid plastic, but it's still not as strong as FRN, GFN, Zyx, Zytel. It's not a polymer that has glass in it, as far as I know. It's just plastic, but it's a very, very rigid plastic, and as far as handle scales go, it gets the job done, more or less. Very smooth deployment on this guy. It's not on ball bearings, as far as I know, just looks like washers, probably nylon. Can't really tell. I didn't dismantle this guy. I don't really care that much to do that, but they're smooth. Very, very smooth deployment, actually. No problems whatsoever. It flicks out very easily every single time. No wrist movement needed whatsoever. I had to crank it down a little bit on the pivot screw right there. There is no side to side anymore. I think there's a little bit of up and down in there, but that's kind of to be expected. I've had knives that were like $125 that had blade play in them, so it's not a bank vault lockup, but that's not the end of the world. There's just a little bit of up and down in the liner lock right there. It's just how that goes. That should be totally expected for a knife of this price. But again, the deployment's very smooth. It's very fast. Lockup's good enough. We do have some steel liners in there. They're not taking up the entire surface area of the handle scales, but most of them, they are nested in there. It's kind of difficult to tell right there, but they're in there, I promise you. The handle scales are rigid enough. You can see it kind of gives a little bit if I really try to squeeze these suckers together, but stainless steel liners are doing their job. That metal and polypropylene together works a-okay. Little lanyard hole right here. It's kind of cheaply done. It's not like in a pillar or anything keeping it secure. It's just 2 holes cut parallel in the 2 handle scales. Some studs are perfect, cylindrical, and they're nice and dome-like at the very tip, so it's nice and soft on your thumb. Nice and rounded. No issues getting to them. Pocket clip, I really like the way this pocket clip looks. Again, going with repetition of the design. It's nice and squared off. It kind of reminds me of the Cold Steel pocket clips they stick on their pro lights, tough lights, etc. Very simple, nice and black, and I like that. But what I don't like about it is how it is not running parallel to anything else. It's just on this slant. For some reason, it's weird. I don't know why they have it slapped on there like that. You can even see the metal on the clip is protruding out and protruding past the cutout in the scale right there as well. It looks very sloppy. I don't know why Ozark Trail did that. You were so close. Once again, Ozark Trail. I say this all the time. Ozark Trail, they always get so close. Those Walmart knife makers, man, they get very close to making a really solid knife aesthetically and functionally. There's always like one or two little flaws, and I don't know why. First off, it's tip down, and then by now the people have spoken, we want tip up. It's just funny to me when knife companies still make their knives tip down and don't give you any other options. It's not a deal breaker for me. I still get tip down knives if I like the knife enough. But not only that, it's weird. Like it's slanted. I guess they did that so it would pinch better and ride better in your pocket, so it wasn't landing over here on this slanted portion of the handle scale. And they needed to wiggle it out of the way to make room for the pivot screw right there, but that also makes it look messy. It looks like a mod. It looks like I drilled that in myself. Why didn't they just put it there? That would solve a lot of issues. I feel like they'd have it perfectly parallel with the handle scale, matching straightforward, not on an awkward cant, not covering anything up, and they could have made it tip up. Why they did not do that, I'm not really sure, but it is what it is. It works perfectly fine though. It carries just fine. No issues with it. Perfect tension. I like the way it looks. I like how it's blackened. There's enough to grip onto right there. You're going to see that poking out. It's not loop over. That's another thing. Why not a loop over tip up pocket clip, put it right there, and then maybe even tap out some holes on this side if you could. Would make it a home run, and then give it a shaft lock instead of a liner lock. It would be a perfect $8 knife if that was the case. But we got a few hiccups and wee-waws here and there, just like a lot of the Ozark Trails unfortunately do. But other than that, it is perfectly functional. It works just fine. It carries just fine. It deploys just fine. It has a good enough lockup. Ergonomics are good enough. I like the polypropylene. I like this texturing we have, at least on this main plane we have on the handle scales. I love that. You can just hear the texture. You pretty much know exactly what to expect just by the sound alone. It feels kind of like a lighter, maybe medium lighter traction G10. Perfect. I love that texture. Love it. It's not super slick. It's not like a rough sandpaper that's going to rip up your pockets or rip up your skin, but it's not going to fly out of your hand, I don't think, either, if you're slightly sweaty or if it's drizzling out or something like that. And I like this little aesthetic they have right here. I like how you can see the cutouts of the polypropylene. We got some sort of trapezoid action going on here, a little design aesthetic thing. It's cool. I like it when they add little details and stuff that aren't exactly necessary, but they just throw it on there anyway to make it look better. There's actually like a cool looking design on this knife. I think it's cool looking. But unfortunately, this feels like an Ozark Trail that came out like 4 years ago or something. You know, if it was tip up and it was like loop over, we had a shaft lock on there, even better lockup, then I'd be like, oh yeah, totally worth the $8. It's worth even more than what it will cost you. But again, we got these little issues here and there, so it's knocking it down a couple pegs for me. Very, very good, solid EDC knife with a tanto blade. Or into your tantos, like the blackened blade right there. We got some tactical kind of aesthetics and colors going here. Really not a bad looking knife at all. Ergonomics are okay. It's very, very straight, so it's going to be slightly abrasive on your fingers right there because it's not naturally lining up with the organic lines of my hand and my fingers. It's not a very organic looking knife. It's very, very industrial, straight, artificial looking. Kind of the opposite. Not exactly the most comfortable either. So we got good aesthetics, we got good deployment, we have a pretty good lockup, we have pretty good carry, we have kind of a DIY looking alignment on the pocket clip right there. We don't have the best ergonomics. It's not ambidextrous, it's not tip up, and it's a liner lock. But for $8, totally fine. It's worth checking out if you like the aesthetics, but it's not a whole lot else. Thank you so much for watching. Do you have this knife? What do you think of it? Do you like the Ozark Trails? Do you think they're getting better? Or do you think they're still just junk? Let me know in the comments down below. It's always interesting to hear what you guys have to say, and I always learn something from you. Thank you so much for watching. Mannix out.